Warning: the content of this episode may not be suitable for everyone. It has some very graphic content about accidents and injuries, and so it could trigger anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder for those who have suffered or even haven't suffered in this way. I have asked people, as you will see in the video, to share this video with friends and loved ones who may benefit. So please use your judgment as to whether or not it would be beneficial to hear from his experience and his positive mindset. So with that said, let's hear about Steve McConnel, an inspiring individual.
Hi, my name is Steve McConnell. I'm at the ripe age of 62. I don't really celebrate birthdays much anymore. I celebrate it more that I made it this far. I agreed to do this podcast. I'm hoping to reach out to people and have a positive outlook instead of negativity. I believe that there's always a better day coming, and so it's better to think on the positive things of what I can do as opposed to what I can't do. I'm hoping you guys will do the same. So I'd like to get into my accidents that started when I was 10 months old on my first. I happened to go down some stairs, 2 flights. Mother was taking me down. Apparently I couldn't wait. And I fell out somewhere along the way. And she picked me up and brought me to the doctor who lived next door. And they proceeded to bring me to the hospital, where I had a sprained wrist, some bruises, and a sore left leg. And then the accidents came fast and furious after that.
Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm going to speak to Steve McConnell. He's the man who you just heard speaking, and he escaped death numerous times. He apparently had, let me see, 25 accidents, 15 major and 10 minor, according to him. We'll find out what he means by major and minor. I'm really curious about that. But just by way of introduction, let me just say that I've never met Steve before until today on Zoom. But my friend Denise suggested that I interview him about his captivating story of survival. You don't want to miss this conversation with him. So let me welcome him in. Welcome, Steve.
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I haven't had an accident today, so I figured I'm doing pretty good.
That's great. So, Steve, I don't know much about you. So let me just begin by asking you, what line of work are you in or were you in? Are you retired now?
I'm retired now, yes.
Okay, so, and what did you do in your career?
I've been a landscaper, I've been an electrician, I've been a mover, I've been a heavy equipment operator, been a farmer. I've pretty well dabbled in everything.
Wow, that's a long list. Um, and you mentioned to me just before we got on that you had 15 major accidents and 10 minor. I'm just wondering how you're categorizing them into major and minor, because are you thinking about it in terms of how life-threatening they were, how much time in the hospital, the recovery time? How are you categorizing them?
I was pretty much putting them as life-threatening by no vital signs. Most of my accidents, when the ambulance people or people that were attending me, I had no vital signs. And when if a defibrillator's been used, I figured that's a major accident.
Sure, sure. And so how many where you they was life threatening, if you could say?
I believe there's at least 15, if not 15 or 16. I've dabbled on one or two, but at least that, yes.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay. And maybe you could share with us, let's just say you're the first big sort of life-threatening one.
The first life-threatening would have been I was hit by lightning at the age of 10 at a Ottawa Boys Club camp. Uh, I was running back after dinner. There was such a bad storm, everything was canceled. I remember hearing the crackle of the thunder, and I then woke up in the burn unit at the hospital.
Wow. Oh
I
my.
would say that was, yeah, my first one, major.
And oh my gosh, I don't want to take you back there, but when I guess you woke up in the burning.
Yes,
Oh, and what happened exactly there?
I had to have skin grafting on my chest, stomach. I had some other burns on my feet, and it nearly knocked me against a tree, which was I was right beside at the time, and I was knocked unconscious. And like I said, I have to thank a shout out to Bernie Museum, the camp director, who really, I'd say, hustled and got me to the hospital, uh, so that I was ended up still here.
Yes, and thank goodness for that. Okay, so how long were you in the hospital?
I was in the hospital for two, almost 8 weeks. I was in the hospital for that.
Wow. And then you had another major accident. Maybe you could explain what that one was.
I'd say the next major accident would have been my motorcycle accident where I lost a left leg and was cut in half. My back is all steel, which means I'm a ball at the airport.
Wow. Okay. And what do you mean you were cut in half?
The accident where my leg hit the bumper of the vehicle, the van that was driving in the wrong lane. It pushed out my back, which in turn severed my spine. So I have 7 steel plates holding it, and 16 discs were moved. So I have steel rods where they were, and I have a steel collar in my neck.
Wow. And you were how old for that one?
I was 42.
42. Okay.
Yep.
And okay, so but up until then you just had, the burn situation happen, but
Uh, yeah, I've had some carbon monoxide poisoning, a few incidences, some silo gas, poisonous gas. Uh, yeah, those were my right leg was cut in half by a chainsaw. I hit a milk truck.
are those
That
the
was
ones you're
pretty.
calling minor?
Uh, Not minor, in between. I figured I wasn't unconscious and I still had my vital signs. Uh, I was worried I wasn't going to make it to the hospital in time. I was by myself, but yes,
Wow. Wow. That is a
it
lot.
was more the story that I had to crawl about a mile to a house to get uh, gas into my car so that I could make it to the hospital because I wasn't able to walk.
Oh my goodness. How far did you have to walk or crawl? Uh,
It turned out to be just about a mile to a farm. I was out in the back country in Edwards Township. So that was the first house I came to. And they had a hobby farm, and he just happened to have a 2-gallon can of gas, which I needed.
oh my goodness. Yeah.
So then I was able to get it, got back to my car, and drove myself to the hospital where they had to insert a steel rod and some staples on my right leg, or yes, on my right leg.
Wow. So you were becoming a bionic man. I
Yes. And then another steel rod was put in. I hit a milk truck at the age of 19, and it smashed all my ribs. My right leg, or sorry, my left leg was cut in half. My shoulder was dislocated and cuts and bruises all over. And about 80 seconds after we got out of the vehicle, from the fire department, using the jaws of life, the car and the truck blew up.
Oh my,
So we made it out with in 80 seconds.
wow.
So
That's
that I would consider life threatening with just that amount.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So okay, so when you had you were split in half, and had all those rods and things, what was the length of time you ended up in hospital?
I was in the hospital from the motorcycle accident for 11 months.
Wow.
I was in the hospital for the leg uh, when I cut it with a chainsaw for about, it was 5 weeks. And the milk truck was about 3 months.
Okay. And what would you say is the total time for all the accidents that you've had, which is like 25 or whatever?
It works out to about 5 years.
5 years. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
And I'm just wondering um, if you could go into maybe a few more before I ask you some of the questions that I have.
sure. Uh, at the age of 13, I was helping fill my uncle's silo with corn silage. We were refilling it, and when I was just about done, uh, the fumes, I guess, overcame me, and I collapsed. And when I didn't come down, my uncle had gone up into the silo, and I was buried in the silage from the dioxide. And they, because I was 100 feet up, and they couldn't lower me down the chute, they had to get a rescue helicopter to come in through the top of the silo and pick me out in a basket and lower me down to an awaiting ambulance and take me to the hospital. Again, I had no vital signs when they arrived on the scene.
Wow. And I'm just wondering what was going through your mind as you had these accidents, especially after that, the big one with the motorcycle. Um, how did you handle that, like mentally, psychologically?
It was fairly, I'm going to say easy, but the way I was thinking is that um, I'm still here. I was unsure at the time if I was able to walk yet. That was still sort of up in the air, but I was awake. I could see my children. Yeah, I was trying to think more what I could do. I think my first question to my daughter was, "How was the motorcycle?"
Hmm.
And then as time went on, I was able to start walking, and then it was, yeah, I was focused on more what I could do as opposed to, yeah, what I couldn't do. I did start to think though that, yeah, that's where that bad luck, no luck at all thing came along. But it's I figured it's gone way past that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so I'm just wondering, because you're sitting in the hospital for X number of months, and what are the thoughts going through your head? Are you thinking, oh, tomorrow's going to be a better day, which is a really positive mindset? Or are you thinking, oh, geez, why did this happen to me? Or did you go through any of that?
I'd say the major focus was first just getting out of the hospital. Like I say, after 11 months of being in a hospital and the rehab center, yeah, you're pretty much focused on just getting out. And then when I did get out, the recovery was still ongoing, I'd say, for another uh, 3 to 4 months. And then I was focusing on, yeah, everything I could do. I was my first train of thought was, how could I ride my motorcycle again? And that's what I focused on, and I was able to, and I still can ride my motorcycle with the help of an electric shift. and a little bigger pedal for my foot to sit on, I am good to go.
Wow. And I know that in our conversation just prior to this podcast, you had mentioned that you met your wife in the hospital. When was that?
Yes, on one of my accidents when I was 25, I hit a set of railroad tracks at a considerable rate of speed, and I flew over the sled, and I landed on the railroad tracks, and I broke my back. That was the first time I broke it, and while in the hospital recovering, uh, she happened to be visiting somebody in the next room and was waiting outside, and I happened to see her and told her to come on in and visit me, since my friends just left after the visiting hours ended, and we struck up a conversation, and then we met when I got out of the hospital and started dating and eventually got married.
Okay. So all of this, the accidents and everything, I mean, there was an upside to it. You did find somebody to share your life with. So that's pretty good. I mean, you know.
Well, I tell people to know me is to come see me in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
figured that cuts it down right there. That is self-explanatory. Since I'm a frequent flyer there, I figure, yep, I tell everybody off the bat, I'm more than likely going to be in the hospital soon. You'll have to plan to come and see me.
Okay. And at 42, you had that major accident.
Yes.
What about thereafter?
I've had a couple after that. I um, was at the casino, and on my first day of trying out my new prosthetic leg, and upon just about entering the casino, I was struck by a car that was unable to stop at the um, after the stop sign. I happened to fall in front. My prosthetic leg fell apart. It wasn't properly put together, and in doing so, I was struck and uh, ended up in the hospital again with my some ribs were broken. I had a collapsed lung, uh, just some dislocated shoulder, and cuts and bruises, and ended up in the hospital again for 4 months.
I see. And did you require operations? I mean, obviously you needed to get your back surgery and all of that.
In that accident, no operation was needed.
No, so the broken bones and whatever were to heal on their own?
No, they for broken ribs, they were just I was wrapped and was placed in a body brace
Mm,
for 3 months.
right, right. Yeah, because I don't think they operate on ribs and things, right?
No, no.
All right. You might mention just a few more to give the audience an idea of some of these accidents that you've been through.
Sure. One of the an accident that was life threatening. I was doing some under garage work at a retirement home into their underground parking, and the building manager was hearing one of the fans that removes the exhaust in the underground parking, turned it off. It was making a loud noise. I was operating a Bobcat at the time, so the exhaust from that wasn't being taken away. And eventually I succumbed to the fumes from it, and I needed. They came to check on me, and I had ran into a vehicle in the underground parking and was unconscious. I was very fortunate. There was an ambulance already there attending to a senior citizen, so they contacted them, and they came right away down to where I was, and again needed to be resuscitated and back and transported to the hospital, where I was checked out and released that day.
Okay.
But
So
had that ambulance not been there, I don't think it would have been good.
right, right. So I don't know if you've heard of this fellow named Brain Selleck. He's a Croatian man, and he was a music teacher, and he had 7 life-threatening accidents, and he's kind of called the luckiest unlucky man in the world because he had all those one on a train, one in a car, one with a bus, and on and on. Um, have you heard of him?
No, I haven't. But if he only has 7 life-threatening injuries or times, I think I have him beat.
I think you do too. And I found it on YouTube, and they talk about he's the one who's in the world had the most life-threatening accidents. So I think that you have beaten that. One of the things that came up in that video on this Frain Selleck was the fact that, a lot of people did not believe him. So, it had to be documented, and they did get the documentation together. Um, so, are there people that say, well, that's a little fantastical, and that you're not really, you couldn't be alive, so they don't believe you. Does that ever happen?
It has happened. Usually, when people want me to tell my stories of all this that happened, and yes, I find when I'm telling somebody for the first time, it can be overwhelming with all the news that I'm giving them, and then it's usually that all my friends that have come to see me in the hospital and have gone through it with me. And then there's obviously I have newspaper clippings, and thank God for hospital records on just about every one of my accidents. Yes, so I'm very fortunate that there's I have plenty of proof at my disposal that if someone did ever question it, with my hospital records, friends that would gladly, like I said, that's the very fortunate thing about them coming to see me. They get to witness it.
Right. And you also probably have insurance records as well, right?
Yes.
So you could easily get all that documentation together, because I don't know, but I would, having been through all that, have you thought about putting yourself on the Guinness World Records list?
I remember we having a little wee conversation about that, about what I think about doing that. Up until you mentioned it, I never even actually thought about it. Um, I don't know. I keep thinking, is that something to be really celebrated that you've made it? Where I thought it was interesting that he thought he was the unluckiest man. I was going to see it and turn it around that I'm the luckiest man because I'm still here. I figure I know I'm still having the accidents, but as long as I keep coming through them, I figure I'm the luckiest guy.
Right. Well, the story of that fellow is that he was the luckiest unlucky man. And
Yeah.
the reason he was the unluckiest, or the luckiest unlucky, is because he ended up, after those seven, episodes, accidents, he won the lottery. So that's why they say,
Oh,
yeah. So that's why they say he's lucky, he finally had his streak of luck. Um, but yeah, I wanted to ask you, so people, you have the documentation, you can put it all together, you've got the hospital records, you've got the insurance company records. I know it's not something, I guess I would celebrate the fact that you're still here, and that is a unique thing, because
yes.
how many people survive that? And it's unbelievable.
Well, see, that's where I was thinking where the positivity comes from. With all that bad luck and with all that stuff that was going on, I never took time to think about anything negative about it. Being that I was still here, and I always figured there's always somebody worse than me. So there's no really getting down. Even with all this stuff happening, I've when I was in the hospital, I met those people that are in worse shape than I am. So really, there was no reason for me to. The negativity never came around. There was. I never entertained the thought of it.
That's pretty amazing. But people going through such difficult situations, often have PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. Did that affect you at all?
No, the need for the people that do have that, like veterans or and first responders, I know that I've talked to that have that. They see traumatic events. I've been on the receiving end. On the accident where I lost my leg, one of the first responders who came to me when he rolled me over and my leg didn't come with me, he actually froze, and his partner had to come over and take care of me, and he proceeded to help my friend that was on the bike with me because he was unable to. Um, when I was in the hospital, he came to visit me, and he apologized for that because that he couldn't work on me. He'd only been on the force, he said, for 8 months. And he said this was the first time he came up on that case. And I said, listen, I said, I'm here. Your buddy got to me. You helped my friend. It's all good. I certainly couldn't fault him for anything that he saw or that was doing. And he said the accident, because of the accident, he actually sold his motorcycle 3 months later.
I see. And have you been helping others with their accidents?
Yes, there was an incident where his spine was severed, and he was going to be a paraplegic. Unfortunately, his girlfriend at the time apparently didn't like the idea that he was going to be a paraplegic and left him when he was in the hospital after finding out this information. The nurse, my nurse, liked my outlook on life and my positivity, asked if I would speak to him and sort of cheer him up. And I said, sure. And within 15 minutes, I was in his room chatting with him and talking to him. His name was Rob. And yes, I told him there was things that, yeah, it's better, don't think again of what you can't do. It's, same idea. Think what you can do. And we've become friends ever since.
Wow, that's very good. That's very good. So you're an inspiration to others, I'm sure. Um, I also want to know, you got married and then that marriage did not last. Um, and then I was just wondering about your dating relationships, if I can ask.
Uh, the dating, I admit, when I lost my leg, I was a little uh, concerned whether someone was going to, take on somebody with one leg. I had the idea, that might not be what somebody would be interested in. Not everybody thinks the same way I do. And I was thinking, they might think I was going to be a burden of somewhat, they'd have to take care of me. So I think that made me want to try even harder to do things to show that I wasn't going to be a burden any more than anybody else. The fact that I didn't have a leg, I didn't want that to get them into the idea that yes, that I was going to be unable to do everything, and they were going to have to be at my beck and call. That bothered me considerably
Mm.
after the accident, and now it's worked out. It's not a problem.
What are your thoughts about being accident prone? Do you think that do some people say that you might be accident prone, or what are your thoughts given all the different accidents?
Before before I really understood accident prone in the beginning, and then I'd say in my teens, I did believe that's what it was, and then I've come to realize no. I, I used to, shit's going to happen. It's going to happen. No matter what you do, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, you can't stop. Then people call it fate.
Yeah,
Uh, Again, it's fate can change due to conditioning. My example would be in one of my accidents. I was leaving to go out on a trip, and I turned back, and I was 3 extra minutes doing it, which means I would have been somewhere else in that 3 minutes. So that means I wouldn't have had the accident had I not been there. So I don't put anything as fate either. It's just simply things are going to happen.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's you look at it more simply. Is
Yeah.
that
I believe I was, wherever I was when these accidents happened, that's where it happened. Now, I would say I put myself in some of those positions where accidents did happen, a couple, but not many. So that's why I never really got into fate so much, as opposed to wherever I was at the time of the accident. That's where I needed to be, and and yeah, the outcome was undetermined at the time, obviously. Uh, so in any of them, and then yes, and that's why I said that's where I think where the chuckle came in when every time I had an accident and came through it, I said, yeah, I beat it one more time.
and I was just wondering, not in terms of religion, but in terms of maybe spirituality, uh, has it had an impact on your spiritual belief system, if you will?
The preachings of the God. But I don't deter it. My daughters and grandchildren, all people have something to believe in. Everybody should have something to believe in. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them. Willing that, yes, I think I've mentioned earlier that if I live through this, I'm going to go to church. I've heard that from many people, or I'm going to start praying. Um, I thought that, geez, why would God let this happen to me then? If he was, if that's the way it worked, how come I keep getting into these things then, and then I got to keep praying to them, and yet these things are still happening?
Mhm.
So I never really stretched out my thoughts on that, in believing. I just believe that you're here. You should make good on, why you're here, and I figure that's a good policy.
Sounds about right. Um, uh, and what about lessons learned? What are the lessons that you think you learned from going through these serious accidents?
Um, I don't know. I guess again, after the accident, they say, "Did you learn anything? Don't go so fast, or don't put yourself in those positions." Um, I've sort of shied away from that. I think that's the level of having no fear. I don't really fear anything. I just go ahead and do it, and then deal with the consequences later. I know that probably isn't a good thing to install into my children or my grandchildren. But I know that's sort of been my philosophy all this time, which is probably why I end up in getting these accidents. Some I'm, could have been prevented. I wouldn't change a thing. Yeah, I don't wish I was in the motorcycle accident, but I did, and that's that. So yeah, yeah. I think, what does it make lemon out of the lemons, and never mind what the lemonade was going to do.
Right. And you mentioned that on the 150th celebration of Canada, they actually selected you for something.
Yes, I was very lucky to get selected for the Canadian Builders Award. I get because of my snowmobiling trek up north. That takes about 4 to 6 weeks. I travel from the Manitoba border down through Thunder Bay, and then back around North Bay, and then back again once a year. And in doing that, and also running a sausage stand, which my retirement came in down in Westboro in Ottawa, I was able to, I guess, impress somebody in the newspaper world, stop doing things just because of the terms and conditions I was in. I was at a sausage stand roughly 4 days a week, and ran that all summer. And then in the wintertime, I did my snowmobile trek, and I would stay just at people's places that I met along the trail. It's just like a motorcycle community. Everybody's friendly that rides the snowmobile, and you just make new friends on the trails. And they seen, the condition I was in, so they're rooting for me come to come to terms, and invited me to stay with them during my trip. and then I just worked my way around. And then the next year I would do it again, meet them, and I just met plenty of new people. Loved it. I haven't been able to do it for the last 2 years because of my conditions that I'm in now, but I hope to do it again soon.
So you got an award at that time. How many people got that award with you, or were you the only one?
Uh, Out of 36 million people, they picked 150.
Wow. Okay. Great. I'm
So I
glad.
figured that narrowed it down pretty good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was wondering if you have anything you want to say to people that are going through a lot of rehab, recovery from accidents, or just surgeries in general, and they're feeling a little down and out. Do you have any words of wisdom?
I would say to anybody that's been in any kind of accident, the biggest thing is not to dwell on what you can't do. I strongly recommend think of what you can do, and I would say there's no expectations can be had. Obviously, whatever condition you're in, you can't predict at the beginning what it's going to be. But as I said, go day by day. If hour by hour is needed, go hour by hour. If that's not good enough, minute by minute. Again, there's no time frame. You take what it's needed, and hopefully you've got friends and family and support. You get what you need. Ask. The biggest thing I learned was to you needed to ask in my condition for help, because if you don't, that's where, to me, that's where the suffering begins.
Hmm. And you actually came out of the hospital for something else. It wasn't an accident, though. Am I correct?
I Yes, just recently I was in the hospital for 3 months with severe nerve damage and diabetes problems.
Okay. Because of that nerve damage and so on, did they have to do anything, surgery or anything?
Yes, the nerve damage involved my right leg. Uh, uh, it was severe nerve damage, and there was a good chance that it was going to be amputated. They had to find the right medication to control the nerve damage and get the diabetes under control, which took 3 months. And I was able to save my right leg.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So you're out of the hospital for what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? No,
I've been out for 2.5 weeks now.
2.5 weeks, and you're doing well so far, so good?
Uh, yes, I put this into the so far so good category. Again, see, it's work in progress. I'm not walking that well yet. My leg is still under mending. The pain medication's working good, so I don't feel anything. It's just a lack of strength right at the moment, getting my right leg back to uh, I'd say back to where I am able to walk and support me moving around, and hopefully getting back to doing the things that I wanted to do.
Okay, well, I hope for the best outcome for you. And I really, really appreciate you coming on and doing this podcast. And I actually think that you should go ahead and document all of this. And any of the
Oh,
listeners,
I had a lot of
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, for my first podcast, yes, a little nervous, but again, I trooped through it. I hope it went well. I hope people that listen, got something out of it. My biggest thing that I'm hoping you take from this: just think positive. Get rid of any negativity you have. That's, to me, can be just as much damage as me losing a leg. It can be just as strong.
That's true. And you've made me really think a lot more about how I take some of the little things that happen. And, I've got to shift my mindset. But, I was saying that you need to make sure you document all of this or write a book or something, because I, as a Canadian, maybe we should have Jim Carrey play you.
I think that would be great. I'd love that.
I think that would be great. I really do. And I just want to say to the audience, please share this podcast with your friends, with your relatives and loved ones, because I think, Steve, you're very inspirational to all of us who haven't been through that much. And many of us still complain. So really, I'm honored that you came on. And I think I will end this podcast by saying that my granddaughter, I told her that I was going to interview you, and she said to me, can you tell him one thing from me? And I said, sure. She's 7. And what do you want me to say? And she said, tell him that he's brave and awesome.
Oh my. Oh, will you give her a big hug for me and tell her thank you very much?
I will do that. I will do that for sure. And again, I really appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate the audience for watching. Subscribe to this channel if you want to hear more stories like Steve's, and hit the like button and give us your comments. So, with that, I'll say bye for now.
Isme, thank you very much for having me on. You were simply a delight.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.